Here with me.
Okay.
Yep, you're all set. Okay. We are delighted to have Susan Arthur this evening. Susan is going to talk about caring for what you need to know about dementia as a caregiver, what's considered normal, how the brain is affected by dementia, techniques for providing positive and supportive care for those living with dementia, and to identify the levels of dementia in order to provide the correct level of care. We are thrilled that Susan is with us tonight. She is a certified positive approach to care trainer, and she works for the Human Development Commission. Susan, thank you so much for being with us, and I'm going to hand this over to you now.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and thank you all for joining us on a Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. I appreciate it. Hopefully you'll learn something, and I'm going to go ahead and you guys kind of see who I am now, but I'm going to go ahead and share my slideshow. We've got a lot to cover today, so I want to make sure that we've got lots of time to do it. I do like to have feedback. I know it's a little difficult when we're in a setting like this. It's kind of difficult, and I can't really see all of you, so you'll have to forgive me if it gets a little bit confusing. And Mary Sue, if people, because I can't really see the chat real well myself. So if people put things in the chat box, if you could just be kind of monitoring that for me, that helps me a little bit.
Yeah, I will be monitoring it, and if I see something, I will interrupt you. Do you want me to interrupt and then stop?
Yeah, yep. I'm pretty casual. I prefer casual than real overly official.
Okay, folks. So if you have a question, type it in the chat room. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so he already introduced who I am. I'm just a little bit extra about who I am. I have been working 13 years with the aging population. I started in 2008, and I know I have a young looking face. A lot of people tell me that, which I really appreciate, but I am 41. So I've been doing this for a few years, and just on a personal note, I have a father who has Alzheimer's disease. So this is a very personal topic for me. I really, really deeply care about getting information out there to people about positively taking care of another person with dementia. I've done a variety of services in the aging community, case management. I do the caregiver support program, and a shout out to all my people from Huron County and the Thumb who have joined us tonight. And then about 4 years ago, I got my certified approach to care training certification. So we have to put this on there just so everyone knows that I am certified through Teepa Snow, but I do not work for her. And if you haven't heard of Teepa Snow before, I really encourage you to look her up. She's fantastic. Just really explains a lot about what dementia is. You can learn more from her in 5 minutes than I think you could going anywhere else. So that's my little plug for Teepa Snow. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. Now, normally I would show you a video right now, but because we're on a little bit of a time crunch, we're going to more talk through this right now. So when we think of normal aging, there are going to be changes that happen that just occur as part of the normal aging. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an example, something that most of us have experienced. So let's imagine right now I'm sitting on the couch, right? I'm sitting in my couch, so I'm watching TV. Mary, I'm hearing some background noise from somewhere. I can't figure out where it's coming from.
The red what?
Some background noise coming from somewhere. I don't know where.
Okay, I'll check. Hang on.
Okay, thanks. So let's say that I'm sitting on my couch
Can't get on.
TV, and then I decide I want to go get some coffee. So I get up and I go and I walk in to go get some coffee. And while I'm on my way there, the phone rings. And I pick the phone up and I'm, hello? And I'm talking to who it is. And I figure out that it's my friend Betty. And she tells me that she wants to meet me at the mall. She wants to meet me at 2:00. She wants me to bring the photographs from when we were on vacation. I tell her that I have the pictures from vacation, and I make a little joke about how she looked like she maybe put on some weight. And then when she gets mad, I quickly correct and tell her that, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And then she asks me if I can invite our friend Julie to come along. And I say, sure, we can do that. I can invite Julie. And then I hang up the phone. And then I stand there and I look around and I think, now what did I come in this room for? What am I doing here? And so I look and I think, I don't know. And I scan the room. And I'd say, I got up, I was watching TV, I came in here, and then I can't think of it. So then I walk into the other room, back into the living room, and I do the whole thing over again. I look around, I say, now I was sitting here, I was watching TV, and then I got up. What was I going to do? And it's not until I actually sit down in that chair.
Hello, anyone hear us?
Yep, we can
We
hear
can't
you.
hear you. Raise your hand.
So anyway, it takes until I sit down in that chair for me to be able to remember what it was that I went out into the room for. So now's the chance for all of you to tell me, has anybody experienced anything similar to this?
Yes. Of course.
Of course. So what do you think is happening when you go into another room? What do you think happened to me in that scenario if I'm going in there to go get coffee and then I get in there and I can't remember? What happened while I was on my way in there?
I think you got your brain distracted on what you were originally going to do from the phone call.
Absolutely. So before I had a chance to really get to the room where I was going to do the new activity, where I was able to really clue in or really get in on what I was going to do, the phone rang. And now what happened when I was on the phone? My friend gave me a lot of information. I had to figure out who she was. She told me that she wanted to meet me at the mall at 2:00. She wanted me to bring the pictures. She wanted me to invite our friend. That's 5 different types of information. Plus, I have to remember where I'm going to meet her at. We're going to meet at the chocolate shop. So by the time I hang up the phone with her, my brain is already full of a lot of extra information. And here's the thing. Our brains can really only, in working memory, and working memory is the kind of memory that we have where we're manipulating it. We're actually using it to do stuff, but we haven't really clicked it down deep into our long-term memory. Working memory, we can only about 5 to 8 pieces of information at a time. So the more information that you have coming at you, your brain just gets rid of stuff because it's too much. So the other thing that happened there when I couldn't remember what I was doing, when I couldn't remember why I was looking for that car or what I was doing in that room, the first thing we all do, what's the first thing we do when we can't remember? We look, right? We visually start scanning the room. We start looking to figure out what it was that we were doing there. When that doesn't work, we start talking to ourselves. We start saying, now I know I came in here, I was doing this, because we're trying to audibly cue up that memory. And when that doesn't work, then we actually go to the place of where we had the first thought. We actually physically travel. We might travel around the room and touch things, pick things up, thinking maybe that's gonna get our memory. That's because when humans take in information, our primary way that we like to take information is visual. Then we like verbal, and then we like touch. Those are our first 3 ways that we like to take in information. When you think about it, if somebody were to make a noise off camera right now, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to turn and I'm going to look at it because I like to take information in through my eyes. So that's a very normal thing to do when you find yourself not being able to remember why you walked into a room. Now, the other thing, as we age, being able to remember words, being able to remember the names of people, it starts to slow down right around the age of 40. And you'll notice a little bit of a decline in your ability to come up with words really quickly. That's all very normal part of aging. You might find yourself saying, you know, it's the thing that you know, you do this with it, you write with it, you click it and you do this, you click it and you write. Eventually you're going to come up with the word, or somebody else is going to help you come up with the word pen. I know I'm not the only one who does this. Word finding, can't find the word. Anyone out there? Yep. Okay. I see a few of you with your hands. But it's scary. As we get older, it's a little scary when we can't remember a word, because we start to think to ourselves, I wonder if is this just normal, or is this, should I be worried? Should I be concerned? It's completely normal. The fact that you retrace your steps shows that your brain is working in a way that it's supposed to. Everybody gets their brain overloaded at times where we have a hard time remembering what we were having a conversation about. As we get older, we may find ourselves relying on a calendar a little bit more, writing notes. Maybe you keep a little reminder booklet right by your phone. Those are all normal parts of aging. Just a little bit slower to do as we get older. A little bit harder to learn new information. It might take us a little bit longer to come up with something. But it's not going to change much about your day-to-day life. It's not going to affect your functioning very much. So if that's normal, what's not normal? So I'm going to go back to the same scenario. I'm sitting here, I want to go get coffee. I get up, I go to get the coffee, same thing, the phone rings, it's my friend. But instead of being able to recognize that it's Betty, I'm like, who is this? And she says, well, it's Betty. And I say, well, why didn't you say that? I'm not a mind reader. And then when she asks me to go meet her at the mall, I don't understand where the mall is, because they changed the store there. It used to be a Macy's, but now it's a JCPenney, but I can only think of it as being a Macy's. And I tell her, well, I know where you're talking. Then she asks me to bring the pictures, and I make the same crack about her getting fat. And when she gets upset, I tell her, well, I don't know what you're getting so upset about. You're the one that's getting fat. So I have no sense of feeling bad about that. So then when I hang up the phone with her, I stand there and I go, And then I see a dirty coffee mug. And I pick up the dirty coffee mug and I think, now I know I know there are people breaking into my house, drinking my coffee, not putting my stuff away. What? And I keep telling my son that people are coming in here and he thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. And then puts the coffee mug down and starts doing a whole bunch of other things. Never gets any coffee, never even really thinks about the fact that needs coffee. Then at 2 o'clock, my phone rings and I pick up my phone and I say, hello. And she says, well, it's Betty. And I say, well, hey, Betty. Completely forgetting that I talked to her. And she says, well, where are you? I say, I'm at home. Where are you? Well, Betty's at the mall. And I say, well, what are you doing there? And she says, well, I invited you. And I say, you know, Betty, I think you might want to go talk to the doctor because I think you might get that dementia that they're talking about. And then I hang up the phone. So what's different between those two scenarios? There's obvious differences. But what are some things that kind of stand out about the difference? And there's a couple of things there. Any thoughts? Nobody wants to talk over each other, do they?
The attitude.
Susie.
If you have something to say, just unmute yourself. Go ahead.
I thought I did.
Yeah.
The attitude.
Yes. So one thing was her attitude, right? She was rude. And then when she was called out on being rude, she didn't even notice that she was being rude. She didn't think that she was being rude.
You thought she was always right and you were always wrong.
So she had no ability to see. She didn't remember, and she couldn't even think or fathom that she might be wrong.
Someone in the chat room said they disassociate.
So saw the coffee mug and can't think that that might have been me that left that coffee mug. I think that that must be somebody else. But even more than that, the coffee mug didn't prompt me to remember that I was out there to get coffee. Now, normally that would have prompted me. A coffee mug would have been a very strong cue. Oh yeah, I came out here to get coffee. What else was a big difference there?
She has a poor orientation to reality.
Poor orientation to reality. Yes,
She confuses what she's thinking of from what's happening.
right. She doesn't have good long-term memory. She's got a little bit more rudeness in the way she talks to her friend, and doesn't really have an understanding of that rude behavior. She doesn't really hang on to new information very well and is easily distracted. So we're going to move on. And I want to show this really quick because I think there's a lot of confusion about what dementia is. So I hear a lot of people who will say, well, I hear that he has dementia, but at least it's not Alzheimer's. So that's good. We're glad that it's not Alzheimer's. And I say, well, the unfortunate part is Alzheimer's is dementia. So that's what we like to think of, that umbrella term. And some of you may have seen this before. Dementia is like a set of symptoms. I think of it like having a cough. So if I'm coughing, that is a symptom of an ailment. It could be a cold, it could be asthma, it could be lung cancer, it could be COVID, it could be allergies. All of them have similarities, but they're also a little bit different, right? So that's dementia. Dementia is a set of symptoms, meaning that the brain is changing. And there's about 90 different diseases that can cause the changing of the brain. Alzheimer's disease is the most well-known and the most talked about, but you also have vascular dementia, you have Lewy body dementia, you have frontotemporal lobe dementias. Mini strokes can cause the dementing of the brain. People who have suffered from alcoholism, long-term depression has been known to cause some dementia of the brain. So it's important to know that dementia in itself is not just aging. A lot of people think that dementia is just a part of aging, and I'm here to tell you, no. Normal aging is, like we talked about before, a little bit slower to do, maybe takes a little bit longer to remember things. I may have some mild cognitive impairment going on, but it's nothing that's going to be really overly affecting my day-to-day life. So when we think of those symptoms, dementia, you're going to notice that you're going to have short-term along with usually long-term memory loss, but not always. But there's usually going to be short-term memory loss before there's long-term memory loss. But we're also going to notice social functioning limitations, like we were talking about rudeness, being a little bit more impulsive. We may see personality changes, which It doesn't always mean that there's something that flips in the brain. It just means because of the way we're perceiving the world, our personality can change a little bit along with that. And we're going to get into that. We're going to see impaired judgment, difficulty with abstract thinking, more easily confused. So dementia isn't just about not being able to remember. We're going to see a lot of behavioral, a lot of changes in this person. And if you suspect something is different, something has changed with the person that you know, then you want to seek out a doctor and try to get a formal diagnosis. And the reason for that is back to what I was talking about before. If I have a cough can mean a lot of different things. And I want to know if what I have is something that is long-term, or is it a short-term situation like a cold, or do I have emphysema? Same thing. If I'm noticing short-term memory loss, I'm starting to have some changes in my personality, some impaired judgment, let's get to a doctor and find out what's going on. So the 4 truths that you want to think about with dementia. So at least 2 parts of the brain are dying. Your memory is going to be one of them, and then you're going to notice changes in other things. The abstract thinking, judgment, executive functioning. Dementia, when it's true dementia, it's chronic, it can't be fixed. At this time, there is no cure to dementia. It is progressive and it will continue to get worse. And at the end, it is terminal. If nothing else causes death, dementia will eventually shut the brain down to a point where it's no longer helping bodily functions to work, not getting air into the lungs, getting the heart to pump. Because our brain is the epicenter of our body. It's what tells our whole body what to do. And I need to move you guys for a minute because I can't see my own slides. There we go. So most dementias are going to continue to progress. Some treatments may slow the progression. And that is a kind of a confusing thing. And if we have time, I will get into it, or if people have questions about it, how the medication really works. But it doesn't stop the disease, but it does help with some of the symptoms. So you want to work with your physician, and you want to get involved with groups and educate yourself on the disease. Coming to programs like this can be really helpful because everyone deserves a good workup. And there we go. So this is the Alzheimer's top 10 list of early warning signs, things to look for. So we want to look for memory loss for recent or new information. Now let's go back to those scenarios. If I forget that I have a doctor appointment, am I going to be concerned right off the bat? Probably not, because I'm going to look and think, did I write it down? How much did I have going on at that time? When I made the appointment with the doctor, did I then get a phone call, or did I go do something else and then I never got a chance to really get that anywhere? Where I could solidify and really lock that appointment time in. Memory loss for recent or new information means I talked to my dad this morning and then I talked to him later this afternoon and he has no memory of us ever talking. Yeah, that's going to throw up some red flags for me. I'm going to think, gosh, you don't remember that we even had a conversation. That's a little concerning to me. Difficulty performing familiar but difficult tasks. So this could be somebody who baked a lot, did a lot of homemade baking or cooking, and then you find that they're mixing up this recipe that they've always known. Maybe they're putting salt in when they should have been putting sugar in, or they're completely leaving out ingredients. Now, that can happen to the best of us. Make banana bread and forget to put the bananas in because you're just in a hurry and distracted, and you get done and you go, oh my gosh, I just made bread. I didn't make banana bread. But you recognize that you didn't put the bananas in. It's when somebody is regularly mixing up familiar tasks, but they're a little bit more complicated. Bill paying is one. Keeping track of your finances. Those are things that take a little bit of process. You have to be able to follow a process. So you're going to notice people are making some errors with writing out checks, or you're going to notice that bills aren't getting paid. Now, we also want to think about, is this somebody that's always been a little bit scattered and not the best about paying their bills? If it's normal for them, then, you know, that's just a normal thing for them. But if this someone is someone who is always very fastidious and detailed about their record keeping, and now you're finding that they can't seem to add up their numbers very well, or they're taking bills and sliding them off to the side because they just can't process it, they can't get through it. Problems with word finding. And again, I want to go back to, this does not mean the occasional, I'm struggling to find a word. Now, when we go back to the pen, if I'm saying that I'm trying to get you to help me remember the word, and I say, you know, you write with it, and I start making the visual movements with it, you're going to eventually be able to follow me because I'm doing a real tight circle around that word, right? I'm giving you good clues as to what word my brain's trying to come up with. Somebody who's having symptoms of dementia, when they're trying to come up with a word, they're losing not just the word that they're looking for, but they're losing multiple words. So you might find somebody going, well, you know, it's the thing that I do that with. You know, it's that, the thing that goes in that place. And you're thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about because you're giving me nothing. It's because they're starting to really struggle to come up with words. They're having a hard time remembering nouns, usually is what comes out first. And I'll tell you, by mid-stage dementia, people are losing 1 in 4 words already. That's 1 in 4 words of nouns that they're just not able to find or comprehend well. So they're misunderstanding words as well. Getting confused about time or place, getting lost while driving. And here's the kicker. Somebody can drive very well because of muscle memory. That doesn't mean that they're able to do the executive functioning that goes along with driving. Meaning if there's a detour, that could really throw me off. Because if I've always driven back and forth to church and it's a 2-mile drive and I know that I take 2 rights and a left and I'm at church, but now all of a sudden that road's blocked off and I end up 2 towns over because that detour got me all confused and then I didn't even remember where I was going. You're going to see worsening judgment, a real big problem here with financial scams. We're going to have people who are giving money when they shouldn't. Maybe they're going outside in the cold without putting a coat on, just not making good decisions. They're going to have difficulty with problem solving, misplacing things. And yes, we all misplace things. I threw my keys out in the trash and it took me an hour to find them. The difference is, excuse me, I knew, and this is a true story, I knew that I had gotten home, so I knew the keys had to be there somewhere. And it took me an hour to retrace my steps to finally realize I had accidentally thrown them in the trash, and then the trash had made it all the way out to the curb to go out. So a person with dementia would be putting things in odd places without even recognizing that they're losing it. So you might find the remote in the underwear drawer, or you might find the butter in the oven. Things are going into weird places, and it's not just on occasion, it's happening regularly. Changes in mood or behavior. Somebody who might have always been very social, you might notice that they're withdrawing from things. You might find that they're a little more irritable because they're noticing that they have changes, that they're recognizing their own limitations. And then a loss of motivation to do things that they previously enjoyed doing. So we want to know, is it always dementia? If we notice some of these things, No, it is not always dementia. Depression can cause some of these things, the withdrawal. If somebody is severely depressed, they may not be doing a very good job of keeping care of their personal hygiene or keeping up with their bills. You can have an undiagnosed health condition that it could be an infection that's going on. People hear this all the time about urinary tract infections that go undiagnosed and can cause some changes. It could be a medication side effect. Delirium is something that is an abrupt change, that I'm fine today and then tomorrow I'm confused, I'm saying incoherent things, I'm talking in an odd way. That should tell you emergency, emergency, emergency. I need to get that person to the emergency room because they obviously, it could be any kind of an infection going on. Dementia doesn't typically happen boom overnight. Dementia is more of a decline that you're going to notice the ups and downs. So I just want to make sure that before we move on, if we have questions, I know I'm going over a lot. I see some things in the chat, so I just want to make sure that, do we have any thoughts or questions about what we're talking about so far?
I want to get into this, but can you distinguish dementia from Parkinson and Alzheimer's?
Well, Parkinson's disease, and of course, I'm not an expert on Parkinson's, but there is research that shows that people who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's do have a higher chance, or there is a higher chance of them having a form of dementia. And I think Lewy body is the one that tends to go along with Parkinson's. But not all people with Parkinson's will get a dementia or get a disease that causes dementia.
But do these conditions have different kinds of manifestations of dementia where you can distinguish one from the other?
That would take going to like a neurologist. Most dementias will have similar ways that they present, but they could be a little bit different. So for example, Alzheimer's disease, you're going to notice kind of a gradual, slower, it's just kind of this gradual decline, almost like going down a long slide. Where vascular dementia, we're going to notice that because that comes from having a series of different strokes that cause like little damages all over the brain. So we're going to notice kind of as a stroke occurs, a drop, and then they'll kind of rebound, and then they'll settle for a little bit, and then they'll have another series of little strokes, and they'll take another drop, and then they kind of settle for a little bit and go along. So yeah, it's really a good idea if you're noticing something different to talk to a doctor, because each of these diseases, and there's 70 to 90, so couldn't possibly take time tonight to go through all of them. But a lot of them have enough similarities that if you notice some of those early warning signs, it's good to talk to your doctor, because you want to know some of the different things about them, because some can cause hallucinations where others may not.
Does the decline of executive function go hand in hand with dementia, or is that completely separate?
Yes, it does. Yep, and that's what we're going to get into next here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep push. There it goes. So first, we need to understand how the brain functions so that we can have a better understanding of how the disease is actually affecting it. So the disease is affecting not just structural changes to our brain, but also chemical changes. So I think of it like a light bulb. In my old house, I had a light fixture that when I turned the light on, when I flipped the switch, sometimes the light would come boom right on, and then other times it would kind of flicker, or it would take like 30 seconds and then all of a sudden the light would come on. Sometimes it wouldn't come on at all, or it would come on like 2 minutes later, it would all of a sudden come on. So we knew that it wasn't a problem with the light bulb. It was a problem we were having with the connection. There was a faulty wiring going on there. So I use that to think of the brain, that our brain, we have the cells that make up our brain, and dementia is affecting those cells. It's damaging them. It's shrinking them down, but it's also affecting the chemical reactions that are happening within the brain. So if I have two healthy cells, imagine these right here, and they want to talk to each other, and they're healthy and all the chemicals and everything are working well, it sends out a signal to this one, and then this one picks it up right away, and then it lights up, and then it sends the signal off to the next thing, and the next thing, and you've got all these boom, boom, boom. All of these synapses happening just quicker than we can even think. But the disease of dementia is causing these damage. So they're shrinking down and they're shriveling, they're getting smaller. They're pulling farther away from each other. But what it's also doing is it's reducing the amount of chemical that's available to be able to send that message over to the next cell. So now I can still send, this one can still send a message, but it's sending it at a slower rate. And it's going to take longer to get over here. And then, I also have the problem that it's a little bit further away now. It might actually accidentally go to the wrong cell. So that's when I may accidentally look at my daughter and think that she's my friend for a moment, because my message got to the wrong place. But then the next time it hits the right spot. So we've got damage that's occurring. We've got this slow chemical chemistry going on there too. But then what happens is eventually those cells will be completely damaged. They will be completely destroyed. And now they're no longer even able to send a message at all. But until then, you're going to have a lot of variability. We call it the light switch is on, the light switch is off. So if you go back to my light example, once the
Ask a question. Oh, raise your hand.
Well, I was just going to say, once the light bulb in my light fixture burns out, it doesn't matter how many times I flip that switch or try to send the electricity to it, it's not going to turn on. Same thing with dementia. Once that part of the brain is completely destroyed, it's done. It's not going to keep sending messages back and forth. But while it is just slowly being damaged, you are going to have times when it is able to make the connection. And that's where a lot of confusion comes in for caregivers, because you have the 1 minute they can do it, later on they can't. Sometimes they understand, sometimes they don't. They can remember, they can't remember. It's very confusing and hard to wrap our brains around it. The other thing is that when people are excited, we get a chemical rush. We get really a lot more going on. So this could be when you take somebody to a doctor, or when somebody comes for a visit, right? We say they perk up and they just, whoa, they're right on. They're answering all the questions and they're doing fantastic. And the caregiver is sitting there going, no, this is not how it is. This is not how it normally is. And what we'll also find that somebody might do really good if a family member who lives further away comes and visits for an hour, does a great job of communicating. That family member will go, Mom seems fine. I don't know what you're so worried about. Then they leave and then you have a crash, because now that big rush of chemical, and now they're exhausted. And now you're probably going to have a bad couple of days, because they used so much of their energy while that person was there.
Susan, we've got someone raising their hand. Donna, you've got your hand raised. Did you want to go ahead and ask a question? Unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you. Actually, two questions. With Parkinson's, do dementia always kind of set in at some point as the progression? And then second, if someone is seeing things that are not there, is that a part of Parkinson's as well?
That may be a better question for you.
Yes. Donna, not everybody no, it's not inevitable that someone with Parkinson's gets dementia. A percentage of people do definitely get it. If someone with Parkinson's is seeing somebody in the room that's not actually there, a hallucination, a very common one is children in the room with the dog. They'll look over in the corner of the room and say, what's that dog doing? What are those little kids doing in my room? Or why are those people sitting around my dining room table? Those are common hallucinations with Parkinson's, and they come from both the chemical change in your brain after you've had it for quite some time and the medication that you've been on for a long time. Eventually, the medication and the disease can cause hallucinations, and it's very, very common with Parkinson's. If the person understands that they're hallucinating and it's just because of the disease, it makes it a lot easier to handle. If you're noticing it with your loved one, absolutely tell your doctor. There are some medications that can help control that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And hallucinations can go along with Lewy body dementia. So yeah, I always say, you know, talk with your doctor, talk with your neurologist, and they can help you to know. Now, if you remember going back where we said dementia, you're going to have at least two parts of the brain that are being affected. So if you're only having hallucinations, but you're not noticing really any of these other memory issues or problems with executive functioning, then, you know, it could just be, you know, what Mary was talking about with the medications, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a dementia. But some dementias can cause the hallucinations. So these are our basic areas of cognition. I'm going to fast forward because we're actually going to get to each of them. Judgment. This is the front part of your brain. So if you touch right here, this front lobe of your brain, that is the last part of your brain to be developed. For most people, it doesn't develop until late 20s, maybe even early 30s. Some people, it doesn't actually fully develop. I'm not trying to make a joke, it's just true. Some people don't have fully developed frontal lobes. You know those people because they tend to be a little bit more rude. Maybe they are very impulsive. So this is the first part of the brain in most dementias that are going to be affected. So early on, you're going to notice them making some poor choices for themselves, maybe a little more impulsive. Or they could be more hesitant because they're recognizing that they're not able to do things the way they used to. You may be noticing those harsh or rude comments. I think of it like you would in the early stages, like you would a teenager or somebody in their early 20s who is still very capable. They know how to cook, they can clean, they can take care of themselves, they can hold a job. But you know that they're just a little bit, you know, you still have a little bit of concerns about them, whether or not they're managing their money well or their maturity level. They can come off as a little selfish. Did somebody have a question? So judgment and that executive functioning, you'll really notice it early on, and they can come across as very selfish and mean, and it can be really hurtful for the caregiver. But you just have to recognize that it's really a part of the disease, that the brain is just changing, and that they really truly aren't able to recognize and see things from another person's point of view as easily as they once did. Attention is another part of our cognition of a brain. So a person with dementia, you're going to notice that they're getting easily distracted. Back to our scenario where she went to get coffee, saw the coffee cup, and it got her completely distracted from anything that she was thinking about. You'll notice that they can't stay on task. So if I ask my dad to go grab his coat, grab his shoes, and meet me out at the car, I may find that he gets the shoes, but he never gets the coat. And then I find him sitting in the chair watching TV. And I go, well, why didn't you? I told you to come out to the car. Well, I gave him too many steps for one thing. So they need fewer tasks or fewer steps for the task. So I may have to give them 1 to 2 things at a time. They need more assistance with the details of things. I may have to tell him, there are your shoes, pick your shoes up. Not to just say, go get your shoes, because I need to give him a fewer tasks at a time. Perception is another one. And I want to make sure, because we're going to get low on time, I want to make sure that I get to this part. So how we take information in is a huge part of how we're able to perceive our world. So what I hear, what I see, what I feel, what I taste, all of those things are physical things. You know, I wear glasses because physically my eyes are bad. I may wear a hearing aid because I have a physical problem with my ear. But our brain is what takes in that information from our senses and makes sense of it. And because dementia is affecting all parts of the brain, it's actually affecting our eyesight. It can affect their ability to smell. It can affect their ability to process what they're hearing. Like we were talking about, they're missing 1 in 4 words. So really quick, I want everybody to, hopefully you can see me. If not, what I'm doing is I'm holding my hands out to the side and I'm looking straight ahead. So go ahead and do that. So people with peripheral vision and with their brain that's processing things well, you can look forward and you can usually see your hands wiggling out here to the side. Now with normal aging, and not all people, but a lot of people with normal aging around the age of 70, bring your arms in to about right here, so maybe 10 degrees in. That's where your peripheral vision is. And that's just part of normal aging, meaning that I've got a whole section over here off to the side that I'm missing all around me underneath as well. So you might find that you're missing steps, or you're not seeing, you have to turn a little bit farther when you're in traffic. Now, people with dementia, by mid-stage dementia, and this is people who haven't even been diagnosed yet a lot of times, theirs is all the way to here. So I want you to go ahead and do that with your hands. So that is what they're able to see. So they're missing a whole lot of information coming in at them from the sides. As the disease progresses, go ahead and do this. We call it scuba vision. So it gets down to here. Eventually it goes to binocular vision. And then it'll eventually get to a point where they're only able to see out of maybe 1 eye. Causes a lot of problems with depth perception, understanding distance, and people who aren't able to see well, you can really startle them. If I have only this vision, I can't see what's going on here off to the sides. So when we approach people, even if we don't know that they have dementia, a good way to approach people is to approach them from front on, and we want to stop at about 2 arm lengths away. We've got good practice with this because of COVID. We want to stop at about 6 feet away in front of them and make sure that we have their attention before we go in to touch them. We don't want to come in from the sides. Smell is another thing to be concerned about. Again, it's not about the actual nose itself. It's about how the brain is interpreting information. So you're going to find that people aren't recognizing bad smells anymore, meaning they might not notice incontinence smells or spoiled milk, or that meat has gone bad. They might not be able to taste that food is bad anymore. So that's a lot of safety concerns that we have there for people with how they're able to perceive the world. And then also too much information coming in at people can just really overwhelm their senses. If I've got the radio going and I've got 3 people talking to me at the same time, and there's some background noise going on outside, my brain just can't take that information and compartmentalize it so that I can concentrate on the one thing. It's just like constant noise coming at me. So when we're working with a person with dementia, we want to make sure that we have the environment as quiet and comfortable as possible. As I say that, my dogs are running again up there above me. Reasoning is another one. How we communicate with each other, we reason with each other. We use a lot of cause and effect. I might say, well, we can do this, but we need to do this first. Meaning, yes, we can have dinner, but we need to make sure that we go to the store first because we don't have any food for that dinner that you want. A person with dementia may have a hard time with understanding that reasoning, or to say, I need to get somebody in here to help you because you're not able to get into the shower okay on your own, and I can't be there with you because I live too far away, or I live 2 cities over. And they think, I don't care, because they don't really understand the consequences of that. They don't understand that they're in danger of getting into the shower on their own, or that you're not able to get there. That also goes back to the judgment and the ability to see things from another person's point of view. So they can come off as very self-centered because they're just really struggling to reason out anything. A good example of that is my dad. We took his car in to get it fixed, and then he kept calling them, accusing them of stealing his car. And we had just dropped it off that day. And so this was early on, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And I tried to reason with him, saying, you know me, you know I love you, you know I wouldn't lie to you. And I'm telling you that we just dropped the car off today, so you should be able to trust me. And that really upset him because he just couldn't reason that out. He knew what he knew, and he knew what was true, and that just wasn't the right thing to do at the time. And it was really upsetting to him because nobody likes to be told that they're wrong, or that they're incompetent, or that what they think is true isn't true. That's a very scary feeling. I see some people had some comments up there. I want to make sure that I'm not going too far.
Let's see. Hang on. Okay, Donna, you've got your hand raised again. Do you want to ask a question, Donna? She may not realize she's got her hand raised, so I would just go on.
I didn't know I had it, but I do have a question. Yesterday, and you can let me know if this is Parkinson's or maybe, but we put my husband computer in the Geek Squad at Best Buy, and so we called yesterday on the repairs, and it wasn't ready. They was like, so today he said, call them. And I'm like, well, they just told us yesterday that it's going to take a few days. But he was very agitated. And I said, well, I'm not calling because I just talked to him yesterday. I'm not going to waste that time. So he was so angry and asked for their number, and he called himself, only to find out it's still in repair. And I didn't say, I told you so, you know what I mean? But I already knew. Sounds like something that could possibly be that as well?
I think I would be concerned if he didn't remember that you had called, or he wasn't recalling that you dropped it off, yesterday. If he was just feeling more agitated about, the fact that it was taking longer than he liked. But, the difference, I think, with my dad is we dropped it off that day, and he thought they had it for a week, and that they had held onto that car for a week, when really they'd only had it for not even a full day. So with your husband, you know, if agitation and feeling irritated really easily isn't something normal for him, and but he does remember that you talked to them and has a clear time frame of that, you know, I would just talk to him and ask him, you know, why are you feeling so agitated about this? But if he's not remembering that you even dropped it, or when you dropped it off, or if he thinks it's been a lot longer than it has, then, you know, that's some confusion. So I would have some conversations with him about that to find out what's going on. Maybe he's just agitated because he thinks they're taking too long. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
It did, thank you.
And time frame, that's right where we're at here, abstract thought. And it's a complicated concept when you really think about it. But the understanding of time and distance and relationship, what it means to be a dad, what it means to be a daughter, what does it mean for something to be yesterday or today or tomorrow? We understand that because over time, and again, it's time, but as we age, we experience time passing. So I think of my nephew, when he was 4, and I would talk to him, everything happened today. We went to the zoo today. We went to the store today. We are going to go to here today, you know, and it could be that they went to the zoo 6 months ago, but he didn't really understand that concept of what that meant. Everything is very concrete. So people with dementia are starting to have some difficulties with time, distance. So you might notice time hopping. And I use my own dad as an example just because that's my experience. So my dad earlier in his disease, but we already knew he'd been diagnosed, but he could talk to me, and I was his daughter, who's an adult, who's married with children, but in the same conversation, asked me if I remembered this guy that we both went to school with. So within the same conversation, I'm both his daughter and an old schoolmate, because his time frame is kind of doing this, right? It's all meshing together, and he's jumping through time and understanding our relationship to each other. So their thinking becomes a lot more concrete about what am I doing right now? Can't think in hypotheticals of, well, if we do this, then this might happen, or having, you know, grand conversations about maybe something that's happening on TV. It just becomes a little bit more difficult for them. And then language, the loss of formal language skills. And here's the kicker with language. So with most dementias, it hits asymmetrically, which means you're going to lose on the left. And you can do this with me. Say lose on the left, and we retain on the right. We have language on the left, and we have rhythm on the right. So lose on the left, retain on the right, language on the left, rhythm on the right. What this means is I'm losing my words at a quick pace, but I'm retaining my ability to do normal chit chat, because talking has a rhythm to it, right? I know when you're asking me a question, I know the flow of conversation. So I can say, what a lovely day it is, or, oh my goodness, it's really cold out. I can say, that's a cute dog. But the substance of what I'm talking about, or what I'm able to grasp, is a lot more limited than we might understand. But that's why people with dementia can cover for quite a long time, because that everyday chit chat is retained for a very, very long time. But our ability to understand and comprehend what's being said to us is minimized. But I'm going to pretend that I understand, because I'm going to know when you ask me a question. So if I say to you, are you hungry? And what am I doing? I'm giving you a very strong visual cue, right? I'm telling you what the answer is. And remember what I said way back at the beginning? What's the first way we like to take in information? visually. So they're watching your visual cues more than they're taking in your verbal, because they're losing 1 in 4 words. So if I say to you, at the end of the day, what did I say? Anybody know what I just said? But I told you what the answer is, right? And if you want to be agreeable with me, if I push you, I gave you the thumbs up, what are you going to eventually do to get me to stop talking? Right? You're going to give me the thumbs up. You're going to be like, I'm just going to agree with her because she's talking nonsense. Well, what I just said is, at the end of this presentation, you're all going to give me $100, okay? Cool, okay. Then when I ask for my $100, you're going to say, I never agreed to that. And I'll say, yes, you did. You gave me the thumbs up. You nodded your head, yes. People with dementia are not actually understanding as much as we think they are, but they're following our visual cues to tell them what the answer is. So if I say to my dad, did you have dinner tonight? Did you eat? Did you take your medication? I'm telling him what I want him to say, because that's the answer I'm really hoping for. That's the answer I'm looking for. Or if I say to him, are you in pain? Do you need medication? And he's going to say, nope, nope. Great. Well, then he's not in pain. But he's not actually understanding what I'm saying. So we want to use better visual cues for people with dementia. The other thing that's retained, for some reason, we hold swear words, ugly phrases, things that we don't like to say are held in a completely different spot in our brain. Not part of those formal language skills. So you're going to have people who are saying swear words when they wouldn't normally. They're saying things that are rude because this front part of their brain isn't working. They're losing their formal language skills, but their ugly phrases are still intact. All of that together, you're going to get people just saying some pretty nasty things. It's part of the disease. I'm sorry. It doesn't always, it's not going to go away. It's uncomfortable, it embarrasses us, but we can let people know that it's just kind of part of the disease. And everybody says to me, my mom, I didn't even know she knew those words. Everybody knows those words.
Do you think it's because they lose their reasoning, Susie?
Part of it. Part of it is just that executive functioning, that ability to say, don't say that, that's rude. If I say that, I might get fired, or that's going to hurt their feelings. Part of it is that I can't think of the word to say, no, you know, I don't really care for broccoli. I don't like it. So I might say, this broccoli tastes like, insert whatever word you want to there. I think some of that is part of it. So I don't know if reasoning necessarily, but definitely the fact that we're losing language skills and also the ability to recognize when we're being rude. Word salad is another thing that can happen in some dementias, is when words come out, but they don't come out in a coherent fashion. So that's what I put this picture up here, that somebody might be saying, he always runs to the store, but it comes out, you know, kick onto champion run always. And it's just words coming out, but they don't go together, and they're not putting the words together, and they might be interpreting words that way as well, that the words you're saying to them are just not coming together in a way that makes sense to them. Memory, we've talked about, they can appear like they're lying. People, the brain kind of fills in the gaps for people, or kind of makes up, I don't want to say makes up stories, but it fills in what it's not understanding. So that lady who saw the dirty coffee mug, she can't comprehend that she's the one who left the dirty coffee mug. So her brain comes up with, that must have been somebody who broke into my house, made coffee, and then left a dirty coffee mug. Sounds like a funny story, right? But when you're not understanding and able to reason that that doesn't make sense, when you're not able to recognize that you're capable of leaving dirty mugs. You know, the brain might say, yes, I took a shower, because I'm not remembering that I didn't take a shower. And I'm not trying to lie, and I'm not trying to deceive you. I don't remember. But long-term and repetitive actions are retained longer. So people can drive. Again, muscle memory is a big part of that. And they can remember the long-term things from maybe childhood or early adulthood, but those short-term memories are going to be what are gone quicker. And then there's organization. We talked about that already a little bit. Hard to keep the purpose of a task. I kind of wanted to show this. These are kind of the ways that you're going to notice performance being affected. That the purpose of a task will be the first thing to go. Why am I doing this task, and what is the goal of this task? So if you're thinking of showering, I'm showering because I get dirty and I need to be clean, and the goal is to get clean. So I might start to get where, well, why do I need to take a shower? I'm not dirty, and or I get into the shower and I'm like, well, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing here. Then the next part of a performance will be the order. So then it becomes, now I don't even know how to complete this task. Where before I might be able to remind you, hey, you haven't taken a shower for 3 days. You need to get in there and take a shower. Once I get in there, I can do the shower myself. As the disease progresses, now I get in there and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to wash my hair? What's the next thing I do? So it might take me handing you the shampoo and saying, you know, this is for your hair, handing you the soap, this is for your body, handing you the towel, okay, this is to dry off. And then eventually the appropriate use of the tools. So what do I need to use to accomplish this? One example, again, I go back to my dad. He needed to brush his teeth and use his mouthwash. He washed his mouth out with nail polish remover because it was on the counter, and he spit it out. Thankfully, his taste was still intact. He spit it out and he told my mom, this mouthwash has gone bad. So he wasn't even able to recognize that this isn't mouthwash. He just said, oh, this mouthwash is really bad. So we learned that we needed to keep the bathroom as clear as possible of anything that could distract him from what he was doing. Just what we need him to focus on is what's going to be in front of him. That goes back to that easily distracted, right? So if I want him to brush his teeth, I don't want to have his comb and his razor and a whole bunch of other things sitting there on the sink. I just want what he needs to focus on. I had another lady who told me that her husband came out and had taken his toothbrush and brushed toothpaste through his hair. He knew it was a brush. He knew he was supposed to do something with it, but he just couldn't remember what. So now we're going to get into the dementia scales, but we're kind of running low on time. But I don't really want to get into this just yet. I kind of wanted to stop at right where we were. But I would really encourage you to look up Teepa Snow at teepasnow.com. She does really some videos on her site. And she talks about these where she uses gems to explain the different levels of dementia. My Huron County group, we're going to be going over the different levels of dementia and kind of like the progression of it as far as knowing level 1, 2, 3, 4 in one of our meetings coming up. But I really do encourage people to check that out, especially if you do have somebody who's diagnosed with dementia. This can help you to understand maybe what level they're at, and just know that this isn't a clear like I'm at, like my dad. I say it's not like he went from the middle stage and then tomorrow he went to the late stage. there's a lot of up and down and up and down and up and down and good day and bad day, good day, bad day, but there's going to be this general progression. So it is helpful to know and to understand kind of what to expect in the different levels. So, sorry, I went a little over 8 o'clock. I know I threw a lot of information at you, and I want to give you guys time to ask some questions. Not a neurologist, so I cannot diagnose anyone. All I can do is tell you if maybe what you're experiencing might be part of that normal aging, or maybe it's something to be concerned about.
Do neuropsychological evaluations, my husband has had Parkinson's for 18 years and he's getting ready in the fall to have his 4th neuropsych eval. I think that's all because of showing the progression of dementia. Is that correct?
4th neuropsych evaluation.
It could be. I think a lot of doctors are starting to do different testing. I know whenever I go in, I get a depression scale done on me, even if I go into like a podiatrist. They've started doing them, I think, just kind of as a rule. But as far as like the test for dementia, I don't know if they do that for people with Parkinson's as a rule. Does anybody know that?
Well, he had to have the neuropsychological evaluation before he had his deep brain stimulation.
Judy, I
Well, I
think
think
that's pretty
it's
typical. I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For the neuropsychs? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about that.
You know,
He's having his 4th.
You know, is he at Henry Ford? Where does he go? David, where did he go?
His movement disorder specialist is at MSU.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Goudreau or Sideropoulos?
Yeah, Dr. Sid. Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't worry about that at all.
and one of the things that I encourage people to do, and this kind of came to my mind when I was, my daughter was in volleyball, and they did like a baseline test of her at the beginning of the season. So if she got hit in the head, like with a volleyball, which she did, then they take her and they run that test again to see if she's had any decline in her functioning. And if she does, then they have to have her go see a doctor to rule out concussion or anything. And that made me start thinking about when we take a lot of medications, when they change our medications, medications can really affect our cognitive functioning too. So I think it's important to have your doctor keep on file for you a baseline test of what was my functioning before I started this medication, so that when I come back in, or just in general, this was my baseline. Do we see a change in 6 months? It's good to have that on file. They check our blood work, so why not check our cognitive functioning as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What was that website? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
You said Teepa Snow something?
Yep. So it's TEEPA,
Huh?
and then snow, like the weather,
Okay.
snow.com.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
So is this a continuation class, or is this pretty much it?
I was only invited for this one time, but I do, this is just a quick presentation that I do, but I actually teach a series, which is a 3-class workshop. And we go into a lot more detail about the disease, about how to provide care for a person, going into the different levels of disease. So yes, it can be a workshop, but
For the 3.
Can you review the memory page? I just got the first part and then it flicked off.
Maybe. You mean Winston?
Yeah. So, I don't see you guys anymore.
Let's see here. All right. So we want to go,
That's good too.
It was
Okay.
about 5 slides back, Susan.
yep, I'm going to go this. Whoops.
Okay.
Ugh, okay. I love technology. It makes me happy.
Good.
All right, let's see. Organization, memory, this one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Can you guys see it okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and can we do organization to the next one? Okay, for next-
You want to see the next slide?
Yes, please.
Susan, can we share, would you be willing to send me the presentation so that we can send it out to people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
folks, if you email me, if you want Susan's PowerPoint presentation, I can email it to you, okay?
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll send it to you in email. If you got a notice about this meeting tonight, it's because you got an email from me. I'm gonna put my email in the chat box right now.
Mhm.
Hang on.
Do you want our email in the chat too?
No, I want you to email me separately and just say,
Okay.
I want the dementia presentation, and then I will email it to you. Okay, here's my email.
Oops. Oh, can you verbally say it so we can email you at the same time? Or
Sure. It's MARYSUEL at PARKINSONSMI.org. So it's Mary Sue L at Parkinson'sMI.org.
And that 3-class workshop, how can we get to that information?
You can email me. My email is Susie A, just like it says in my name right here. So SUSIEA at, and then it's H as in hat, D as in dog, C as in cat, and then the hyphen, Caro, CARO.org. I can put it in the chat too.
beautiful.
Now I do cover mostly the thumb area. So I would have to, oh, I sent that privately to somebody.
You have to do the drop down arrow where it
Yeah,
says to everyone.
Yeah, I see that now. Everyone, there we go. That might be better.
I had gone through Susie's series from Teepa Snow. And what I also did is I went on teepasnow.com. And if anybody is really super interested in what Teepa has to say, excellent, excellent, excellent. I mean, even Susie's presentation was excellent back then, and I'm sure continues to be. But Teepa has a way of putting the dynamics of dementia into such a way that you do remember what and how and whatever kind of thing. She's just an excellent lady to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And so is Susie.
And I'm no Teepa though. There are a lot of people like myself who do those workshops, and a lot of them are in the Detroit area. So on Teepa Snow's website too, you can find other people, that you can find people in your area who provide that. I mean, I'm happy to provide it for you, but I'm a little bit further away. But being able to put it online is,
you know, there seems to be a lot of interest in this, so I will look at perhaps putting together a series of, probably would not be until later this spring, but we have connected with a phenomenal psychiatrist from Henry Ford, and we've got a great psychologist, and we had been talking about doing something like this, so stay tuned. We'll put something together, okay? Hey, Annette. I just saw that you're on. Good to see you. You're on mute.
Ditto,
There you are. Good to see you, Annette.
ditto.
But hopefully this is something that gets people thinking a little bit about it. Something to, I know it's a hard topic. It's
It
scary.
is.
It can be scary, but it's an important topic, I guess.
And I think if you understand as a caregiver what's happening and why it's happening, you can respond maybe in a different way, maybe in a less emotional way, and maybe in a more rational way, and say, okay, this is happening because this is what's going on in his brain, and respond to it that way. Not to say it's not difficult, because it is, but I think it can only help you. Susan, I want to thank you. This was a great program. I learned quite a bit myself. I know that this is a hot topic. We had a higher turnout tonight than we normally do. So that tells me there's a lot of interest in the topic. But
yes, thank you for having me. I was a little intimidated with all the people because I have my certification, but I get a little nervous thinking, I'm just me. And I get scared that I'm going to tell people the wrong thing. Or
no, you did a great job.
You did a wonderful job. Don't feel nervous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Folks,
I know here.
We did.
I just wanted to say thank you because it put my mind at ease. I'm the Parkinson's patient, but I was the caregiver for my mother with Alzheimer's disease. So every time I forget why I'm going in the room, I think, okay, here comes Barbara. I got it too.
I forget.
I feel better.
I walk into a room, I go, what am I doing in this room?
I say bad words.
I'll tell you what, with my dad having Alzheimer's, and I'm 41, and I've been struggling the past few months. And some of it is just, I learned it, it's called cognitive overload, and we're all dealing with it right now because of COVID and just everything else going on in the world. But I would just stare blankly at my husband going, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. And it scared me, like you said, and I know this stuff, I teach it, and I still get scared. So yes, it's normal.
I always tell my husband, Marvin, I'm doing it again. What am I going to do? Put me out on the ice. Get it over with.
No, don't say that. You're going to join us for exercise tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Best thing you can do to help yourself with anxiety and depression. And it also helps with cognition. 10 a.m. If you go to our website, look for the exercise icon, click on it, and the Zoom link is on the exercise icon. Every morning, Monday through Saturday, we've got exercise, okay?
We go to the Parkinson's, to the Rocksteady boxing.
Well, good. That's
we're able to start back with that, and
good.
Time tomorrow, and I'm already feeling better about it.
Great. That's wonderful news. And I'm glad to hear that you can go in person. That's the ideal, to be able to go in person and be with other people. Okay? All right, folks. I'm going to sign off. Okay. Also, we did record this. So if anybody wants, it'll be up on our YouTube channel in a couple days. I did record it. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Good night, all.
Thanks again. Great job.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.